Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Shahan Rampadi joining you from the newsroom. Well, if you just look at close up here, I have a piece of cake, a cake actually which has been cut into 6. Well, I'll draw that analogy in a bit, but just to give you a recap, for months and weeks now there has been talk of a restructure within the United National Party, a possible cabinet reshuffle, and then finally the continuation of the national government. Now the president has returned to the country following the conclusion of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting which was held in London, and several crucial decisions regarding the matters I just raised are to be made. Now let's start with the restructuring process of the United National Party. Now keep in mind this cake that I've cut into 6. Now there have been constant calls for a change in party leadership, and somehow over and over again, but somehow this matter and this issue has been evaded over time. Now this time, according to the latest reports, as part of this restructuring process, there is a proposal to appoint 6 deputy leaders to the United National Party. Now this is where this cake comes into play. This cake has been divided into 6, and similarly the United National Party is being divided into 6, where 6 deputy leaders are being appointed. Now the names which have been proposed, if you look onto my far right, are Ravi Karunanika, Mangala Samaravira, Dr. Rajitha Senaratne, Sarath Fonseca, Ranjit Madhyama Bandara, and Palitha Atakorla. There have been also other names which have been proposed for these deputy leadership positions. Now there are also reports that the party's headquarters, Sirikota, is also to be divided into 3 sections, where a secretary will be appointed to each section. Now just keep in mind, what is astounding is that J.R. Jayawardena, which has led the United National Party to crushing victories to gain a 5-6 majority, led the party with just 1 general secretary. Just food for thought. I think we are all aware the president restructured the party. The United National Party came about after the UNP, which had lost a total of 30 elections during its time, lost the most recently held local government election as well while in power, and also to a newly formed political party. It goes without saying that the United National Party, which is, of course, as we know, the single most largest political party in this country and has achieved so much more for this country, which is suffering an internal crisis at the moment. So one could suggest that the fall of democracy inside such a big party in the country could lead to a setback in the country as a whole. Now what is happening in the UNP, like I said before, could be similar to this cake here being divided into 6. Each person is having their piece of cake. The question is, how will they do it and when will they do it? Some might also question us, why are we talking about this? As a media station, why are we talking about this? As I said before, the United National Party is a noble political party which has been around for the longest time. And we as a media outlet have a concern, and we have a right to speak about these things. And some members in the UNP itself who really do want their voices heard are not allowed to do so, which is why it is our right to create that platform for these members to express their views. Having said that, speaking at a media briefing held today, Deputy Minister Ranjan Ramanayake drew an interesting analogy to the current situation in the party.
Everything has a date of expiry. Even milk has an expiry date. Let's talk about the Prime Minister in cricketing terms. He was given several opportunities to bat on the field. Let us also bat. You would never know if we could score sixers or boundaries and go on to score a century. You cannot just assume. Let Sajid and Navin bat as well. It is wrong for him to always ask to bat by himself. This is like when we played when we were kids. Does this mean we have to always bowl? It is wrong. You have to let the others bat as well. He always says, no, I'm not out. I want to bat again. I think that isn't good enough. He has to say, Ranjan, you bat now and I will bowl. If you do that, great players will be created in the future. There are great players in our party. We let him bat in 2002, and on that day he did score a century. He took over government and he got out in 2004. Then in 2010, we imported a new batsman. And in 2015, another batsman was imported. We played on the bench.
Well, further referring to the analogy which Deputy Minister Ranjan Ramanayake referred to in cricketing terms, now we all know that Ranil Wickremesinghe, the current Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, became the leader of the United National Party in 1994. And it's needless to say how the scoreboard of the United National Party has been since then. And we know how it has turned out up to now. Now in 2013 or somewhere around 14, a leadership council was appointed to make reforms to the party and propose certain reforms. Now, this committee of council, of course, was led by Karul Jayasuriya. Now, days before the Uva Provincial Council, this council was dissolved. So there could have been possibilities where the Uva Provincial Council could have been won. Now, again, against this backdrop, will the supporter or the member of the United National Party have any faith about any possible change? Now, like Deputy Minister Ranjan Ramanayake said, let us bet. You can bowl this time around. You can't bet alone. Similarly, now this time around, after the defeat at the local government election, it was said a new generation of leaders would be created. Then a no-confidence motion was brought against the Prime Minister. There were several members of the UNP who spoke out against their leaders, saying they will support the no-confidence motion, with the likes of Palitha, Bandara, Wasantha Senanayake saying they would support the no-confidence motion. However, eventually, just moments before the vote was taken up, these members backed their leader and voted against the no-confidence motion. So whatever the reform that was said will happen before the no-confidence motion in the party was said that would happen after the motion of no confidence was taken up in Parliament. Now, just recently, a political council was also appointed to make proposals for party reforms. Turns out, even the party leader, according to reports, even the party leader sits at these meetings. So the question is, what do the members think about this? Here's what State Minister Palitha Bandara had to say about the matters.
Power has not been decentralized. We continue to call for reforms, and the Prime Minister has proposed that Sirikotha function as 4 separate sectors. I think that this will be discussed and implemented only following the next working committee meeting. The working committee and our parliamentary group have taken a unanimous decision that the party leader will not be changed. So if the party leader is not being changed, then it is the other positions, including the General Secretary. According to the party constitution, the appointment of the General Secretary is the prerogative of the leader.
Now we raise an issue again as to why we are talking about this matter so comprehensively. Well, many would understand that, many of the UNP loyalists rather would understand that we too here, many of us at the serious organization, at News First, are UNP voters ourselves. And according to reports, what we've been told, a team has been appointed to create a problem, to create a rift between the United National Party and Sirasa, News First. Well, we reiterate, our issue is with the UNP leadership, not the United National Party. As we said before over and over again, the United National Party is one of the longest, one of the oldest parties in this country and has achieved so much for this country. And it is one of the noble and most respected parties in this country. It is a shame to see it go down this road and into its own destruction. Now, moving on, General Secretary of the United People's Freedom Alliance, Minister Mahinda Amaravira, also says it will continue with the coalition government with the United National Party. Now, the minister made this statement upon an inquiry made by News First following an event held in Colombo today.
The UNP and SLFP are functioning as a national government. We are clearly going ahead with the program for a national government while protecting the identity of our party and taking the decisions for the sake of the country. Our primary objective is to take the country forward. Minister Sarath Amnugama has drafted this report and it will be submitted soon.
However, members of the SLFP who voted in favour of the no-confidence motion against the Prime Minister and eventually defected from the government say the Sri Lanka Freedom Party should completely leave the government.
Such a proposal has not been raised officially in the Central Committee. If such a proposal is to be made, it should be included into the agenda. Then it should be discussed and a decision taken.
Now, speaking following an event, during an event in Kandy today, Minister Lakshman Kiriella also said the United National Party expects to sign a memorandum of understanding to continue with the national government.
The President and Prime Minister will sign a memorandum of understanding soon to continue the good governance government. After it is signed, the United National Party and Sri Lanka Freedom Party will get together and carry on this government for the remainder of its term. But the media is always waiting for this government to fall apart. But there was a presidential election, followed by a parliamentary election. And there was also a no-confidence motion which the government won. So no matter how much the media waits for the government to fall apart, it wouldn't happen that easily. We have formulated a plan for the next 2 years. We are ready to face a presidential election next year.
Well, this was a minister who said the media will be taught a lesson moments after the local government election. Well, we know how all of that panned out. Now, since the inception of this government 3 years ago in 2015, media has been overshadowed, have been focusing entirely on the internal struggles of the United National Party and the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. Just think for a moment and just see how many times cabinet has been reshuffled during these 3 years. Well, while all of this is happening, there are actual, real issues the people of this country are facing outside. The very people who they elected to represent them and resolve the issues are having a power struggle right now. The question is, who will look into these matters? The rupee, the dollar is now at 156 rupees. Our foreign reserves are falling apart. The debt burden is rising day by day, which the people have to incur eventually. Now, we also know it's common fact that the monsoons are expected quite soon. Now, the all-important question is are the authorities doing enough to brace for this? Are we going to be reactive or proactive? Last time we had the floods, several lives are lost, several damages were caused to property, several people lost so many. The question is, we are expected to learn from our mistakes, learn from each and every disaster we face. The question is, are these things being done? Are measures being taken by the authorities who are elected by the people who are suffering right now to look into their issues? Farmers in Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa, so on and so forth, are suffering, who cannot yield a decent crop. Now it is the outsiders who are eventually coming in to resolve the problems in our country, while the people who were elected to run this country are resolving their own issues. Who will hold power? Now, it's similar to this. If you own a household, if you're running a household, your own house, if you have an internal issue inside the house, you would not go to your neighbor and get him to resolve your internal matters. This is exactly what is happening in Sri Lanka right now. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, is now telling us how to price our fuel. And if we don't, we will not get to the next tranche. This is the issue Sri Lanka is suffering at the moment. And even when this government came in, they promised, one of the key mandates that they said will be carried out was that they will fight against corruption. This is where we come to these two gentlemen, Arjuna Mahendran and Udayanga Veeratunga. Arjuna Mahendran, of course, as we know, is one of the key key persons involved in the bond scam, and Udayanga Veeratunga in the controversial MIG deal. Now, authorities have been unsuccessful in securing the extradition of Sri Lanka's fugitive former ambassador to Russia, Udayanga Veeratunga, who is in Dubai. Now, a warrant was issued for Udayanga Veeratunga, who is absconding from court in connection to the controversial MIG deal, and Interpol has also issued red notice. Now, Veeratunga was placed under arrest in the UAE on the 24th of March in line with the international warrant and continues to be detained there. Now, the issue here is a senior official has said that the necessary documents for the extradition of Veeratunga have been sent to authorities in the UAE, and they said that a request needs to be submitted for the extradition in line with extradition laws. However, it was reported that the extradition treaty with the UAE has not been ratified in Sri Lanka's parliament. Now, while all of this is happening, it begs the question, what is the ambassador in the UAE, who we have in the UAE, this person on my far right, who is Suleiman Jeffrey Mohideen, doing to secure this arrest? Because an ambassador of a country represents a state. The question is, what is happening here? Then we also have Arjuna Mahendran. A red notice has also been issued, and Interpol is on the hunt for him. Again here, on to my immediate left here, the High Commissioner for Singapore in Nimal is Nimal Veeraratne. Again, what is the ambassador doing to secure the arrest and get Arjuna Mahendran extradited to Sri Lanka? Now, over these matters, we spoke to the Justice Minister, Thalatha Attukorala, about this matter, and here's what she had to say.
මේ දවස්වලට මාධ්‍ය පළවුණානේ එමෙතුමියනි අර මේ අපේ උදාරපණ පනත අපි අත්සන් කරාට රටවල් එක්ක ඒක තාම පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ සම්මත කරලා නැති නිසා මේ උදයන්ග විරතුංග මහත්තයාගේ කට්ටිය ලංකාවට ගේන්න බෑ කියම් කිසි සත්‍යතාවයක් පොඩ්ඩක් තියෙනවද කියලා දැනගන්න. ඒක දැම්ම මට ඔයාලට කියන්න විදියක් නැහැ. මේ එහෙම එකපාර අපිට ඒක දෙන්න බෑ. මම ඒක බලලා කියන්න. එතකොට එමෙතුමියනි අපි රටවල් ගණනාවක් එක්ක ඒ වගේ කිව්සුම් අත්සන් කරලා නේද තියෙන්නේ? ඔව් අත්සන් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒ රටවල් මොනවද කියලා කියා ගන්න පුළුවන්කමක් තියෙනවද? ඒවත් මට එහෙම කියන්න බෑ.
Now, earlier we spoke about the International Monetary Fund demanding that Sri Lanka come up with a pricing formula for fuel. Now, today the Jatika Sevak Sangam, convening a media briefing, also spoke about this matter and the losses Sri Lanka is suffering at the moment.
The CPC incurs a loss of 14 rupees and 70 cents from a litre of petrol and 9 rupees and 35 cents from 95 octane. It incurs a loss of 14 rupees and 35 cents from diesel and 9 rupees and 50 cents from super diesel. And from litre of kerosene oil, the CPC incurs a loss of 49 rupees. These losses are not due to a mistake by the CPC. The CPC has collapsed. Their loss is over 190 million a day. Just because the price of oil increases in the world market, the prices won't increase through the pricing formula. When it is at 15 rupees and 47 cents, when we are paying 23 rupees more for the dollar, the government should take a decision to strengthen the consumer as well as the CPC, without the burden being laid on the people. The tax should be reduced. An open price formula should be introduced. Until a pricing formula is made, do not increase oil prices. Subject Minister, Secretary to the Ministry, Chairman of the CPC, please set out the factual position of the CPC. We are prepared to give you the necessary airtime in this regard. If you are unable to come forward, you should be ashamed. If you are unable to provide the factual position of the CPC, you are not suitable to hold those posts and you should vacate your posts immediately.
Well, as indicated by us, there are actual crucial matters which need urgent attention by those elected by the very people of this country who are suffering of these rising debt burdens, rising cost of living. The question is, will those in power, will those who are elected by the general public of Sri Lanka look into these matters and focus on the people's issues? News First will keep a close watch. Until then, stay with us.